What if the most terrifying enemy in the American Civil War was not a stranger, but someone who once sat at your family table? What if the man aiming a rifle across the smoke was the boy you hunted with as a child? What if letters traveled between battle lines because brothers wore different uniforms? This was not only a war of North against South, it was a war of households against themselves. A war where loyalties cut through bloodlines, marriages, churches, towns, and memory. This is the story of brothers at war when Fort Sumter fell in April 1861. Excitement swept both sides. Crowds cheered in city streets. Bands played martial songs. Young men rushed to recruiting stations. Women stitched flags and uniforms. Speakers promised swift victory. Many believed the conflict would end in weeks. They imagined glory they had not yet met. Mud, fever, amputations, widows, or mass graves. Across the Union, volunteers poured in from New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Massachusetts, Illinois, and countless smaller towns. Immigrants joined to Irish laborers, German refugees, men seeking wages, citizenship, or belonging. Across the Confederacy, men enlisted from Virginia, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, the Carolinas, Tennessee, Louisiana, and Texas. Some rode to camp with horses and servants. Others arrived barefoot with little more than determination. Everywhere, communities held farewell ceremonies. Church bells rang, mothers cried. Privately, sweethearts gave ribbons. Children stared at uniforms with wonder. The war began wrapped in romance. It would soon strip that illusion away. One reason the conflict became so intimate was geography. Americans had migrated constantly before the war. Families had branches in multiple states. Business partners lived across sectional lines. West Point had trained officers who now chose opposite flags. Some of the most famous friendships in U.S. military history shattered overnight. Men who had studied together, joked together, and served together in Mexico now prepared to kill each other. Robert E. Lee declined command of Union armies and chose Virginia. George H. Thomas, also a Virginian, chose the Union. Winfield Scott remained loyal to the United States. Stonewall Jackson chose the Confederacy. Countless lesser-known officers made the same agonizing decisions in silence. The border states revealed the tragedy most clearly. Kentucky, Missouri, Maryland, and Delaware did not secede, but they contained deep Southern sympathies. In these places, neighbors spied on neighbors. Guerrilla bands formed. Political arguments could end in shootings. Missouri became especially savage. Unionists and Confederates fought not only formal battles but raids, ambushes, revenge killings, and burnings. Families hid sons in barns or cellars depending on which army approached. Old friendships dissolved into suspicion. In many mountain regions of the South, divisions ran the other direction. Parts of Tennessee, North Carolina, and Virginia held strong Unionist sentiment. Poor farmers with few ties to plantation elites often resented secession. In Western Virginia, resistance to joining the Confederacy became so strong that a new state was born, West Virginia, in 1863. Even maps could split apart under Civil War. The first major battle showed how unprepared the nation was. In July 1861, Union forces marched toward Manassas Junction in Virginia. Many civilians from Washington, D.C. rode out with picnic baskets to watch what they assumed would be a quick Union victory. Instead, they witnessed the First Battle of Bull Run. Smoke drifted across fields. Commands failed. Regiments panicked. Confederate reinforcements arrived by rail. Union lines broke and fled toward Washington. Civilians fled too. The road clogged with wagons, horses, wounded men, and terror. The picnic war was over. The nation realized this would be long and terrible. Then came the slow machinery of mass mobilization. The Union possessed more factories, railroads, population, and industry. Northern workshops produced rifles, uniforms, boots, artillery, locomotives, and ships on enormous scale. The Confederacy had fewer resources but advantages of defensive war. Shorter internal lines, and powerful motivation to resist invasion, both sides needed commanders. In the East, Union hopes rose around one man, General George P. McClellan, young, energetic, admired by troops. McClellan reorganized the battered Union Army into the Army of the Potomac. He drilled soldiers, improved camps, and restored confidence. But he had one crippling flaw. He constantly overestimated enemy strength and hesitated to strike. Lincoln grew frustrated. He famously asked whether he could borrow the army if McClellan was not using it. Meanwhile, ordinary soldiers entered a world unlike anything they imagined. Camps stank of waste and sickness, measles, typhoid, dysentery, pneumonia, and infection killed many before battle dead. Food was often poor, boots wore out. Letters from home became treasures. Boredom alternated with terror. Young men who had never left home suddenly lived among thousands. Some learned discipline, some deserted. Some hardened, some broke. Religion surged through camps. So did gambling, profanity, drinking, and homesickness. The armies were mirrors of the nation. For families, war became a daily ache. Mail could take weeks. A mother might hear rumors of battle before learning whether her son lived. A wife might receive a letter written by a husband already dead. A brother in blue and a brother in gray might secretly exchange notes through cousins or neutral friends. Many never spoke again. Slavery remained central even when many soldiers initially described other motives. Union volunteers often enlisted to preserve the nation. Confederate volunteers often claimed defense of home and state. But the war's roots in slavery shaped everything: secession, diplomacy, labor, economics, and the social order each side fought to maintain or transform. Enslaved people understood this immediately. As Union armies moved south, enslaved men and women fled plantations seeking protection. They offered labor, intelligence, guidance, and later military service. Some Union officers resisted helping them.
For more
Others
detailed
recognized
insights,
history
stay
changing
tuned to
before their
History
eyes.
Hunter TV.
Every escape weakened Confederate labor systems. Every refugee forced the North to confront what the war was truly about. Battlefields multiplied. At Battle of Shiloh in April 1862, armies in the West clashed with shocking ferocity. Nearly 24,000 were killed, wounded, or missing in 2 days. Americans who thought Bull Run had been exceptional now saw mass slaughter becoming normal. At the Peninsula Campaign, McClellan moved toward Richmond, but hesitated repeatedly. Robert E. Lee, newly commanding Confederate forces, attacked aggressively in the 7 days battles and drove Union forces away. Lee now emerged as the Confederacy's most formidable commander, calm under pressure, bold in maneuver, revered by many soldiers. He repeatedly took risks against larger armies. Against him, Lincoln cycled through generals, searching for one who would fight hard enough and think clearly enough to defeat him. The war sharpened people morally. Some who entered indifferent to slavery came to hate it after seeing plantation realities. Some hardened into racial hatred. Some discovered courage they never suspected. Some committed cruelty they never imagined. Civil wars reveal character brutally. There were famous divided families. The Crittendens of Kentucky had one son become a Union general and another a Confederate general. Many lesser-known households endured the same heartbreak without history remembering their names. Imagine a mother in Kentucky praying for sons in opposite armies whose victory could comfort her. Imagine a wife in Missouri whose husband joined guerrillas while her brother served the Union cavalry. What flag could she trust? Imagine enslaved families watching white relatives divide while hoping both systems of power might crack enough for freedom. War did not look the same from every porch. By 1862, casualty lists grew longer. Limbs were amputated in field hospitals without modern anesthesia standards or antiseptic understanding. Surgeons worked rapidly in tents stained with blood. Nurses, many of them women, stepping into public service in new ways, tended shattered bodies. Journalists reported horrors too. Civilians far from the front. Photography changed memory. Images of dead soldiers on battlefields shocked the public. For the first time, war's aftermath entered parlors visually. No heroic painting could fully disguise swollen corpses in muddy fields, and still, men kept marching. Because once nations mobilize, momentum becomes its own force. Because honor, fear, duty, pressure, comradeship, and propaganda bind people tightly. Because quitting can feel harder than continuing. Because civil war punishes hesitation, yet amid destruction, moments of humanity survived. Pickets sometimes traded coffee for tobacco across lines. Shared songs drifted through darkness. Enemies helped wounded foes drink water. Christmas truces appeared in small places. Men recognized themselves in the uniforms opposite them. Then dawn came, and orders resumed. By late 1862, America was no longer guessing what war meant. It meant widows. It meant dead. It meant amputees returning home. It meant enslaved people turning battle lines into escape routes. It meant presidents aging rapidly. It meant boys becoming old men by 22, and it meant brothers truly at war. The next chapters would bring even greater turning points. Battle of Antietam, the bloodiest single-day Emancipation Proclamation, transforming the war's purpose. Battle of Gettysburg, where destiny shook on 3 violent days. But before those legends, the deepest truth had already emerged. The Civil War was never distant. It lived in kitchens. It sat at family tables. It rode in saddlebags. It arrived folded in letters edged with black mourning lines. It asked every American the same cruel question: who are you loyal to when the people you love choose the other side? What if 3 days in one small Pennsylvania town decided the future of the United States? What if fields meant for wheat and orchards became oceans of smoke, iron, and screams? What if the most famous battle of the American Civil War was not inevitable victory but a near catastrophe balanced on minutes, hills, fences, and human nerve? This is Gettysburg Hell. Summer 1863. The war had already consumed America for more than 2 years. Cities mourned. Farmhouses stood empty of sons. Hospitals overflowed. Railroads carried not only soldiers but coffins, amputees, and telegrams of grief. Yet despite terrible losses, the Confederacy still fought with dangerous strength. Its greatest weapon was not industry, not population, not wealth. It was the Army of Northern Virginia under General Robert E. Lee. Lee had won astonishing victories against larger Union forces. He defeated cautious commanders, outmaneuvered armies, and inspired fierce loyalty among his men. After triumph at Chancellorsville, he made a bold decision: invade the North again. There were reasons beyond glory. Virginia's farms were exhausted by constant campaigning. Northern territory offered food, shoes, livestock, and relief for Southern soil. A victory on Union ground might weaken Northern morale. It might strengthen peace movements in the North. It might even encourage Britain or France to reconsider diplomatic recognition. And, perhaps most dangerously of all, Lee believed his army could win. So in June 1863, Confederate columns crossed the Potomac River and entered Pennsylvania. Farmers stared as gray-clad soldiers moved through roads and valleys. Horses were taken, supplies seized. Rumors spread like wildfire. Was Philadelphia in danger? Would Washington, D.C. be cut off? Could the Confederates reach Harrisburg or beyond? The North felt exposed. Meanwhile, the Union Army of the Potomac changed commanders at a critical hour. General Joseph Hooker was replaced by General George Gordon Meade only days before. Battle. Meade inherited enormous responsibility instantly. Find Lee. Protect Major. Cities. Fight if necessary. Do not fail. Neither side initially chose Gettysburg as sacred ground. It was a crossroads town. Roads from multiple directions converged there. That mattered in an age of marching armies. Sometimes history chooses places because roads happened to meet. On July 1st, 1863, Confederate troops approached Gettysburg searching partly for supplies, especially shoes. According to a famous, though debated, story, Union cavalry under General John Buford reached the town first. Buford recognized the terrain immediately. Ridges south of town offered strong defensive ground. If infantry could arrive in time, the Union might hold. So his cavalry dismounted and fought, delaying actions against advancing Confederates. They bought precious hours that morning. Shots cracked across fields and ridgelines. Dust rose from roads as reinforcements rushed in. The battle had begun almost by accident. Union infantry under General John Reynolds arrived. Reynolds was one of the Union's best officers. Soon after entering action, he was killed. Leadership changed amid chaos. The fighting intensified through woods, farms, and streets. Confederate numbers grew. Union forces were gradually pushed back through Gettysburg town itself. Retreat became disorder. Men ran through alleys, gardens, and crowded streets under fire. Some were captured in the confusion, but the Union did not collapse completely. Survivors rallied on high ground south of town. Cemetery Hill, Cemetery Ridge, Culp's Hill. The shape resembled a fishhook, strong defensive terrain. By nightfall, Lee's army held the town. The Union held the heights. And the most famous battle in American history was only beginning. That evening, Confederate General Richard Ewell received controversial instructions to take Cemetery Hill if practicable. He did not launch a full assault. Historians have debated that moment for generations. Had the heights been seized on day one, the battle might have ended differently, but war is full of moments visible clearly only afterward. Night covered the dead, wounded. Men cried in fields. Surgeons began endless labor by lantern. Light, citizens of Gettysburg hid in cellars. Ash shells and bullets struck homes. A quiet town had become the center of a continent's fate. July. Lee attacked again. He believed Union flanks could be crushed. The Union line stretched thinly across ridges and hills. If broken, the Army of the Potomac might be destroyed. The morning passed in preparation. Then the storm came. To the Union left stood places now carved into memory. Devil's Den. The wheat field, Peach Orchard, Little Round Top. Confederate assaults rolled forward in waves. At Devil's Den, rocks became sniper nests and killing grounds. At the wheat field, control changed repeatedly amid horrifying casualties. The field earned another name among survivors, the Bloody Waterfield. At Peach Orchard, artillery thundered and lines shattered. But perhaps the most legendary struggle came at Little Round Top. This rocky hill anchored the Union left. If taken, Confederate artillery might enfilade the Union line and unravel the entire defense. Union troops rushed there just in time. Among them was Colonel Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain of Maine. His regiment, the 20th Maine, held the extreme flank. They fought repeated assaults. Ammunition ran low. Men were exhausted. Then Chamberlain made a desperate decision. Bayonet charged. His line surged downhill in a wheeling attack. The unexpected move stunned Confederate attackers and captured many. Little Round Top held. The Union line survived. Elsewhere on July 2nd, the center and right also endured savage attacks. At Culp's Hill, fighting continued into darkness. By night, thousands more were dead or wounded, yet neither army had broken. Lee still believed victory possible. He judged the Union center weakened. He planned a massive strike for July 3rd. The morning opened with renewed combat at Culp's Hill. Then came uneasy waiting. Heat rose. Smoke drifted. Men wrote letters, prayed, slept briefly, or stared silently. Many sensed something immense was coming. Around early afternoon, Confederate artillery opened one of the war's largest cannonades. Hundreds of guns roared. The earth shook. Shells burst across Cemetery Ridge. Fences splintered. Limbs tore from trees. Horses screamed. Union guns answered. For nearly 2 hours, thunder rolled over miles. Some civilians miles away thought earthquakes had begun. Then the guns slowed, and out of the woods emerged lines of gray Approximately 12,000 to 13,000 Confederate soldiers advanced across open ground in ordered ranks. This assault is remembered as Pickett's Charge, though several divisions took part. They stepped into history and into slaughter. The distance was long. The fields were exposed. Union artillery reopened with devastating effect. Solid shot tore lanes through ranks. Shells burst overhead. When attackers closed nearer, infantry fire erupted. Still they came. Flags dipped, rose, and fell. Officers shouted above chaos. Men climbed fences under fire. Some units drifted offline. Others pressed forward with astonishing courage. At a low stone wall near the Union Center, portions of the Confederate force briefly penetrated the line. This point became known as the high water mark of the Confederacy, but no breakthrough held. Union reserves counterattacked. The survivors fell back across the same open fields, now littered with bodies. The charge was shattered. Lee rode among retreating men, taking responsibility. "It is all my fault," he reportedly said in essence to some. His army had suffered a blow it could not replace. On the Union side, Meade had held. The Army of the Potomac remained intact. The invasion of the North was ending. Rain began soon after. Lee withdrew toward Virginia. Meade pursued cautiously but did not destroy him, a fact that frustrated President Lincoln deeply. Still, the strategic meaning was enormous. Gettysburg ended Lee's greatest Northern offensive. It boosted Northern morale. It came almost simultaneously with Union victory at Siege of Vicksburg in the West, splitting the Confederacy along the Mississippi River. Together, these July victories marked a major turning point. But strategy is only one layer of Gettysburg. Another layer is suffering. Roughly 46,000 to 51,000 men were killed, wounded, captured, or missing over 3 days by common estimates. Fields filled with dead horses and men. The wounded begged for water beneath July heat. Barns became hospitals. Churches became wards. Homes filled with strangers dying on floors. Citizens buried bodies in trenches and rows. The smell of death lingered for weeks. Gettysburg was hell not only for soldiers but for everyone nearby. Then came memory. Months later, in November 1863, a cemetery dedication was held. A famous orator, Edward Everett, spoke at length. Then President Abraham Lincoln rose and delivered remarks of about 2 minutes. The Gettysburg Address redefined the war. He spoke of a nation conceived in liberty, of equality, of honoring the dead by ensuring government of the people, by the people, for the people would not perish from the earth. In few words, he gave Gettysburg meaning beyond tactics. Why does Gettysburg endure so powerfully? Because it contains everything: bravery and blunder, leadership and luck, mud, smoke, and mathematics of terrain, ordinary men facing impossible fear, a nation nearly broken, a nation refusing to break. Had Lee won decisively, Northern politics might have shifted dramatically. Peace sentiment could have grown. Foreign attitudes might have changed. The war's timeline might have altered. History cannot be rerun. But at Gettysburg, possibilities narrowed. The Confederacy could still fight fiercely. It would do so for nearly 2 more years. Yet after Gettysburg, it would never again invade the North with comparable strength. And so the crossroads town entered legend. Walk there now and the ridges remain. The fields still roll gently. Birds cross skies once black with powder smoke. Stone walls still stand where men fell.